So the season is over, and for Middlesbrough, it means another season in the Championship. A big summer is awaiting in the transfer market as we look to go one step further and secure promotion to the Premier League. But of course, we will need to do better than what we did last term. Middlesbrough made 14 signings last season. Some were good, some were bad, some were ugly. And here we're going to rate all of them from A to F on how well they performed for Middlesbrough over the course of the 25-26 season. Here we go. The first signing Middlesbrough made last summer was Alfie Jones. He arrived from Hull City, a veteran Championship defender, someone who's been around the block a little bit. He was 27 years of age, so not really that old when he arrived with Middlesbrough, really coming into his prime years, and he signed for £3 million. Now, he was brought in as a player who had a really strong track record of keeping himself fit, something which a lot of Middlesbrough's defenders have struggled with. Now, in the first half of the campaign, he was brilliant, played 23 times, but he didn't play since Boxing Day after picking up an injury which kept him out for the second half of the campaign. Now, the hope is that he'll be back and firing in time for pre-season. Had he been fit for the full season, he probably would have been getting an A rating this season, but as a result of only being fit for half the season, I'm going to give him a C. Rob Edwards arrived last summer and said that he wanted a midfield destroyer adding to Middlesbrough's team. Abdoulaye Kante was the man that they went for, signing from Troyes in France for £2.6 million. Now, Kante didn't speak much English, but he did have a reputation as one of the hottest young prospects in French football, really taken after his namesake N'Golo Kante in terms of his style of play. Now, 20 years of age, he only made 5 appearances for Middlesbrough, all of those coming under Rob Edwards. And then in the January transfer window, we went out on loan back to France to Saint Etienne in the second tier of French football. Now, he's done an interview since then suggesting that he would like to stay with Saint Etienne on a permanent basis. They've got an option to sign him for £3.5 million if they do secure promotion to League 1. So it does seem highly likely that he's going to be moving on. But as far as his career at Middlesbrough's gone, really quite disappointing after early promise. The hope was that he was going to kick on, establish himself as a first-team player last season, and then become a real star for the future. So the fact that hasn't worked out is a little bit disappointing, and as a result of that, I'm going to give Abdoulaye Kante a D. Callum Britton was the third signing to come through the door at Middlesbrough. It was a problem position for us. We'd been looking for a right-back for quite some time, and when he arrived from Blackburn Rovers, it brought an end to one of the long-running sagas of last summer. Middlesbrough were very, very keen to bring him to the Riverside Stadium. His contract, he had just a year left on his deal at Ewood Park, and Middlesbrough eventually struck a deal for £3.5 million, a significant fee for a right back. Now, Callum Britton has done excellently well this season. He's made 45 appearances for the club, provided 7 assists, and been a real key player under both Rob Edwards and Kim Hellberg. Now, his final delivery sometimes is somewhat lacking, but I think it's really hard to be too critical. I think you can't really say that this has been anything but a resounding success. He's one of the best right backs in the Championship, and so as a result of that, I'm going to give Callum Britton signing for Middlesbrough an A. Sonjay Hansen arrived from NEC in the Netherlands. He arrived with a reputation as a really talented player, but someone who was a bit of an enigma, someone who could both leave fans excited but also frustrated in equal measure. He arrived for a fee of £3 million, with Middlesbrough supporters quite excited to see what he could offer. Now, this season didn't exactly go to plan for him. His first season in England, made 22 appearances and only scored 1 goal. He only made 4 starts all season, which is really, really disappointing for a player who was expected to come in and be a real first-team star. Now, he spoke after the Wembley final, saying it was hoping to kick on next season. It remains to be seen whether he'll get the opportunity to do so, because I'm not quite sure that Kim Hellberg fancies him as a regular first-team player, but time will tell. A big pre-season could change everything, but as it stands at the moment, based on his 1 season with the club so far, I'm going to give Sonjay Hansen a D. One of the most exciting deals of last summer was the signing of Sverri Nipan on a loan deal from Manchester City. Now, he just arrived at the Etihad Stadium for £12.5 million from Rosenborg, one of the hottest young prospects in European football. And as part of his development, it was agreed that he'd come on loan to Middlesbrough for the season. Now, Middlesbrough fans and Man City fans as well were really hoping for a star-studded loan spell, but it didn't quite work out that way. Despite showing little moments of promise, he seemed a little bit lightweight, a little bit undercooked. He made 21 appearances for the club in the first half of the season, but only started 3 games before his loan spell was brought to an end in the January transfer window. Since then, he's been playing for Man City's development team, a really, really talented player. You can definitely see that, but just wasn't quite ready to hit the ground running at the Riverside Stadium. So I think given the expectation, given the hype and what I personally had hoped for from him during his loan spell, I'm going to give this signing a D. Middlesbrough's need for a striker was very, very apparent last summer, and that's when Kali Sen was brought in from Lausanne Sport. He was signed for a fee of £1.5 million, a relatively modest fee for a player who was coming in with a reputation of someone who could potentially make a big impact at Middlesbrough. And he started really well, scored a couple of goals early on in his time with Middlesbrough. They both happened in September, with his last goal for the club happening on September the 27th. Now, since then, he hasn't scored a single goal for Middlesbrough. He's made 28 appearances for the club, but started just 5 games, with the last of them coming on New Year's Day. It really seems like Kim Helbo doesn't fancy him. He's sort of fallen well out of favour, particularly in the last couple of months, so it would not be a surprise at all to see Cali Sen move on from Middlesbrough this summer. I think given the £1.5 million fee and given how well it started for him, it's been a bit of a disappointing one, and so again, I'm going to give this signing another D. The left-back position is another one which Middlesbrough were determined to put right last summer, and that's exactly what they did when they were able to sign Matt Targett on loan from Newcastle United. Now, he might not have been the typical profile that we were looking for. We were sort of looking for more of an attack-minded wing-back sort of player. We'd had Ryan Giles in the past, Max Starston in the MLS is someone that we're still very, very keen to sign, and Matt Targett was someone who came in, didn't quite have that same attacking pedigree, but someone who was a really solid operator, someone who could move forward, and certainly provided some creativity into Middlesbrough's team. Now, Matt Targett, despite having a number of injuries over the last couple of seasons, was really, really consistent, made 46 appearances for Middlesbrough over the course of the season, scored 4 goals, provided 4 assists. Now, in terms of his wages, very, very expensive. He was on a huge contract with Newcastle United, but all things considered, it was a really, really successful loan spell. Whether Middlesbrough look to try and sign him permanently this summer, it'll all depend on those numbers. But as far as the loan spell last season was concerned, I'm going to give Matt Targett's loan spell with Middlesbrough an A. We're at the midway point of our roundup, and while I've got you, I would love you to subscribe to the channel. There's plenty of content coming. There's a lot of reaction to last season, and of course, we will be building up to the new season right here on Bonkers for Boro. So if you are enjoying this content, please do hit like, please do hit subscribe, because there's going to be plenty more coming up very, very soon. Next on our list was Middlesbrough's blockbuster signing of last summer, and that was the deal to sign David Strelec. Now, Middlesbrough, as we said before, were looking for a striker, and he was someone who's been on Middlesbrough's radar for a long, long time. And Middlesbrough eventually got their man, signing him from Slovan Bratislava for a fee of £8 million. Now, big things were expected from David Strelec. He's been banging him in for fun for Bratislava, for his international team as well. And when he came in, I think Middlesbrough fans were really, really excited to see how he got on. But I think over the course of the season, it has been a little bit underwhelming, you've got to say. He's made 35 appearances for the club. Yes, he scored 8 goals this season, but a mix of injuries at the wrong time and then struggling to break into Kim Helberg's plans at the very start of his reign sort of derailed him, stopped him getting that motivation. We did start to see a little bit more of what David Strelec could offer towards the end of the season. So hopefully that first season will have been a good period of adaptation for him, a big pre-season, could see him really hit the ground running next season. But if we're going based purely on last season, I'd be giving him a C, because at £8 million, fans probably expected just a little bit more from David Strelec in his first season at the Riverside Stadium. The last player to arrive at Middlesbrough in the summer transfer window was Alan Brown. Now, not many people expected this one to happen. He arrived on a season-long loan deal from Sunderland. Of course, Sunderland had just been promoted to the Premier League, and Alan Brown had played a key role in them getting promoted. But first-team opportunities were always going to be limited, given the amount of players that Sunderland brought in last summer. Now, despite the fact that he was 30 when he joined the club, he's proven to be a really, really solid signing. Made 42 appearances for Middlesbrough over the season, scored 4 goals, provided 3 assists, was a really, really valuable starter for us as well in a number of positions, and even started the playoff final at Wembley Stadium. Now, reports in the Northern Echo have suggested that Middlesbrough might even be considering signing him on a permanent basis. Of course, he's 31 years old now, so it would all depend on the fee. It would have to be good value for money for Middlesbrough, but certainly based on his first season at the Riverside, it was really, really successful. So in terms of the fact that it was a loan deal, no fee paid, and just given how he outperformed expectations, I'm going to give Alan Brown's signing an A. Adolson Malanda, now he was a player who actually signed for Middlesbrough in the summer transfer window, but was loaned back to Charlotte FC in the MLS until the end of their campaign in the winter. Now, Adolson Malanda joined the club in the summer, eventually made his debut for Middlesbrough in January. As soon as the transfer window opened, Middlesbrough were able to register him, get him playing his first game, but of course a transfer fee of £7.3 million. It did show just how eager Middlesbrough were to sign him. There was a number of clubs around Europe who wanted to sign him, but the fact that Middlesbrough were willing to loan him back for the second half of the MLS season seemed to be the clincher in that deal getting done. Now, since he has arrived in Middlesbrough, there wasn't really any sort of period of adaptation needed. He really hit the ground running, was really successful from the start. Had a couple of moments where he seemed a bit off, but of course he has been playing football for about a year and a half now, given the other season with Charlotte. He started that season. Played that full year through 2025, then of course has played the second half of the season as well. So there is an element of tiredness, but undoubtedly Middlesbrough have got an absolute superstar on their hands in Adilson Malanda. He's 24 years of age. Someone who is not yet even in his prime years, really. And if he can continue improving at this rate, he could be a massive player for Middlesbrough next season, providing that we can keep hold of him. So as far as that signing goes, I'm going to give the signing of Adilson Malanda an A. Leo Castledine was the next player to sign for Middlesbrough in the January transfer window. He arrived from Chelsea for a fee of just £1 million, which could prove to be a real bargain. Now, he'd spent the first half of the season on loan with Huddersfield Town, done extremely well there, scoring 12 goals and providing 5 assists. And so for Middlesbrough to be able to sign him on a permanent basis for £1 million seemed like an absolute snip. Now, since he's arrived at the club, Leo Castledine's made 11 appearances for the club, scored 1 goal, only started 1 game, but I think you've got to remember with Leo Castledine, he's still only 20 years of age. He's a really, really young player. I think for him, it was his first chance playing at championship level, so I think these 6 months will have done him really good. But you've got to remember that the potential is certainly there. I think for him over the next couple of seasons, I think if he can be fed into the team gently, if Kim Helberg can get working with him on the training ground, I think Middlesbrough could have a potential superstar on their hands. So while he hasn't set the ground ablaze so far in his time with Middlesbrough, I'm really excited to see what this signing can be like. So from my point of view, I'm going to give the signing of Leo Castledine a B. Finn Monroe signed from Aston Villa, and you may remember that Ian Holloway and Swindon Town were not happy to have their player ripped away from them. They were really, really keen based on what he showed for Swindon. He arrived at Middlesbrough for a fee of £300,000, so a really modest fee for a player who's quite highly rated. But since he's arrived at Middlesbrough, he hasn't really had too much opportunity to show what he can do. 3 substitute appearances, including 47 minutes against Swansea City on Easter Monday. He hasn't really shown a great deal of what he's about, but you'd imagine that pre-season could be the big opportunity for him to show that he's potentially ready to be Middlesbrough's left-back next season. Now, he's still only 21 years of age, still a really young player, but hopefully Middlesbrough can start to see the best of him, because we haven't seen a huge amount yet of Finn Monroe. So I'm going to give this signing a D. Joe Wildsmith arrived on loan from West Bromwich Albion in the January transfer window, and I'm not going to lie, I don't have a huge amount to say about this one. He was brought in as backup to Sol Brynn. He failed to make a single appearance for Middlesbrough, and as a result, at the end of his loan spell, he has since returned to West Brom, where his contract is set to expire this summer. Really hard to rate a player who hasn't turned out for Middlesbrough. I guess he did his job well because he was a backup goalkeeper. But as far as I'm concerned, a bit of a weird signing, really. So I'm going to give this one a D. Of course, Jeremy Sarmiento also signed for Middlesbrough in the January transfer window, as Middlesbrough looked to add a little bit of creativity to their attacking line. Now, he arrived on an initial loan deal from Brighton and Hove Albion. Since he arrived, he made 20 appearances for the club, made 5 starts, but sort of disappointed, really. I think a lot of fans remember how exciting he was when he was playing for Ipswich, and then, of course, he played for Burnley as well. So he'd recorded 2 back-to-back promotions in the Championship, but he came to Middlesbrough looking a little bit undercooked. He hadn't played a huge amount of football for Cremonese in the first half of the season. I don't think he'd started a game since the first half of last year in 2025, so there was a lot of work to do to get him back up to speed, and we didn't really see the best of Jeremy Sarmiento. It was a little bit disappointing. Now, as a result of that deal, there is an obligation to make that move permanent, so Jeremy Sarmiento will be signing for Middlesbrough on a permanent basis this summer, and you'd imagine that pre-season is going to be absolutely massive for him. There's clearly a very talented player in there, but we really need to start seeing it. I think Kim Helberg needs to work his magic on him, try and unlock the potential of Jeremy Sarmiento, because if we can do that, he could be a really, really big player for Middlesbrough next season. So that's what I make of Middlesbrough's signings last season. 14 signings in total, a real mixed bag in terms of how they got on over the course of the campaign, but I want to hear from you. Drop into the comments below, let me know what you think about Middlesbrough signings from last season, and if you have enjoyed this video, please do hit like, please do hit subscribe as well, and I will catch up with you next time.